We can see the first of the cars out there on the racetrack. Agar in the 288 Pulsar. I think we've got a couple of Pulsars to start this top 10 shootout. Unique format for the Winton 300 qualifying. We had qualifying this morning. That set the grid for the qualifying race. Qualifying race set the grid for, or the order for this top 10 shootout. So this car was 10th in the race earlier on today. And of course this crucially sets the grid for tomorrow's 300 kilometre enduro. Just under 3 hours, the expected race time. Race record 2 hours and 50 minutes was set last year, breaking the previous record by like 20 seconds. It was just about breaking the record, but that's about the time we expect the Winton 300 to take. As you see the 288 machine round the final corner and come to the start-finish stripe to begin his lap. So Agar heads down towards turn number 1. Gets it nicely turned in using a little bit of curb at turn 1. Doesn't do so at turn number 2. The turn 2 curb often unsettles the car and sends you out towards that concrete wall on the outside, particularly in a car like this, a front-wheel drive machine. Nicely found the apex there, not using all the road on the exit of turn number 3, but still good mid-corner momentum carried. Now he heads to the sweeper. This is where the Pulsar really comes into its own, this tight technical section of the racetrack. Swings it around the sweeper and into the right kink and down in turn number 7, using a bit of curb there. Gets the car nicely settled. Look, cocking up a wheel on the right rear. You normally see the left rear cock up around this corner, particularly in Hyundai XLs. I think it is slightly lifting. Yes, it is. And then for the final of the hairpins, 3 hairpins really in a row. That final one, the tightest of them all. Then he heads down to turn number 10, the tighter than 90-degree left-hander, hard on the brakes. Got to get it stopped. Don't want to lock the front, certainly don't want to lock the rears. You saw a few legends looping it down there earlier in race number 1. And it's been a really clean lap, no mistakes from Agar. He'll be really pleased with this performance in the Oz Loans Pulsar from Bathurst, as you can see on the side of the car. Really, really clean lap. Goes back across to the other side of the track. And what is that? A 1:42.255. I think, Callum Brannigan, that is quite a good benchmark.
Yeah, Dan. So in qualifying earlier today, he did a 42.25. So basically,
exactly
he's gone just exactly the same time as he set in qualifying earlier. Which, when you take into account that this is a one flying lap, you've got the whole Winton Motor Raceway to yourself. No one but yourself to race against. That is a very, very solid effort. And obviously the track conditions are a little bit slower than we would have had in this morning's cooler conditions. So this is Maynard behind the wheel of the number 9 entry. So this is an N14 Nissan Pulsar, using plenty of curb and then some, and doing a good job there to miss some of the corruption and the stones, dust. He's got the back of the car there a little bit out of sorts, slightly.
We see the Maynard car heading towards the second sector now on the racetrack. This is the second Pulsar. Oh, sideways. Just about kept that under control. And down into turn number 6 and 7. Not using the curb like we saw the Agar machine doing at turn 6. Very similar in approach, though, at turn number 7. Around the tight twiddly section of the course now. Turns 8 and turns 9.
Coming through this turn 9, that right-hander, that car is well sorted. Tim Maynard, you know what to do. You've got just a handful of corners remaining. You just need to maximise the braking opportunities, tip it in beautifully on that apex. A very tight left-hander coming onto, coming up towards turns 11 and 12. Just one sector remaining, and the benchmark is a 1:42.25. It's N15 Pulsar versus N14 Pulsar. Maynard in the N14 Pulsar. Number 9 running just a little bit wide there, but he's got it nice and collected. Beautiful onto the main straight. Once again, runs it wide onto the Vallelunga curbing. And he's charging down towards to take the checkered flag, and we will get an indication of that flying lap in just a few moments. And it's a 1 minute 42.27. So there's 2/100ths of a second splitting himself and Agar. So Agar getting this top 10 shootout off to an absolute fly, Dan.
Yeah, Agar was silky smooth. Maynard, ultra aggressive. Couple of big moments at that corner that we're going around right now. And I think that's crucially what cost Maynard. Certainly cost him more than 200ths. And we can see the third of the Nissan Pulsars heading out there. Now, this is Josh Haynes. Josh Haynes might be a familiar name to many people who are regular at AASA meetings, a front runner in the TA2 series, joint second in the series, I believe. So, real front runner in the category, really ragging the car around the first chicane, using the curb there at turn number 3. Look at that, using all the road. Couldn't have used a millimetre more on the exit of turn number 3. Really, really nice racing line through there. It's been a great start to the lap. Could you find two more different vehicles? A front-wheel drive Pulsar and a rear-wheel drive TA2 machine. But he's ragging this like he has driven. Oh, I think missed the apex a bit there. Yeah, it's his first mistake I've seen on this lap. Wouldn't have cost him too much time, though, because the run to the next corner is so short. So Haynes gets it in there nicely and into turn number 9 as well. It's been a really nice fast lap, this one so far, using all the road once again. Down towards turn number 10, no lockups, gets it turned in nicely, gets a nice run, doesn't use quite all the curb on the exit at turn 10 like he did particularly at turn number 3. And now heads into the final couple of corners, the 11 and 12 complex. You can easily throw your lap away in these final 2 corners. You've done all the hard work. You've got a bit of time to think about the last 2 corners. Very easy to make a mistake. Josh Haynes did not, though. He is going to run to the line, holds it mid-track, crosses the line, and it's a 1 minute 42.7. So that slots him to the tail of the 3 so far. So it's been a great start for Agar. Went out there in 10th. He's made it 1 place on Maynard and now another place on Haynes. So the 3 Pulsars pretty tight, but it's Agar at the head of the field at the moment.
I think, unfortunately for Josh Haynes, there was a slight mistake on that lap. He did a 1 minute 42.3. Which was 4/10 of a second per lap quicker. There's a mistake coming onto the main straight. So this is, of course, the number 86 car of Flanagan coming on to the main straight. So he's made a mistake coming on to get his lap underway, but he's already compromised the top speed coming down the main straight in that number 86 entry. So it's already off to a bit of a poor start, unfortunately. So let's see what he can do to try and make back the time in this beautifully presented white Toyota 86. Coming through turns 3 and 4, keeping it nice and tidy. But he'll be ruining that start to the lap, unfortunately. So as he comes up to the fast sweeping left-hander around turn 5, Daniel Flanagan sharing the car with Christoph Heiniger, the Heiniger joinery and 5th gear motoring supported Toyota 86. It's actually Heiniger behind the wheel. I stand to be corrected, so apologies there for Flanagan. So Heiniger is steering it through turns 8, coming up to turn 9. Nice and easy. The sun is starting to get a little bit lower in the sky around the Winton Motor Raceway as well. So the sun coming into the driver's eyes will definitely be a factor. And of course, they'll have dialed in a setup and a fuel load pre-session to optimise the speed from these cars. Of course, this is the last time we're going to see the Winton 300 entrance this weekend, using all of the road there. The number 86 Toyota 86. Heiniger, just a handful of corners remaining before he comes across the start-finish line to complete his flying lap in the Winton 300 Top 10 Shootout. Where would you rather be on a Saturday afternoon? Behind the wheel of this beautiful Toyota 86, the sun is shining and you've got the Winton Motor Raceway entirely to yourself. What is this time going to be? Keeps the car all the way to the right-hand side, and it's a 1 minute 39.31. So that puts him 2.9 seconds clear of the previous provisional pole sitter in Agar. But obviously with different classes of cars, we were expecting a bit of a speed increase from the Toyota 86. So great effort there from the Flanagan-Heiniger entry, the number 86 car. On screen right now, we have the number 1 Hyundai Veloster.
Yes, Rice and Gardner. The TA2 combination, 2 TA2 drivers jumping behind the wheel of this gorgeously presented Hyundai Veloster, as you say. Callum sporting the number 1 on the side, and it's Rice behind the wheel of this machine, heading through the first couple of corners. Rice and Hazer very much front runners in TA2, both equal second in the championship, and quite remarkable that they are both sharing the racetrack for the Winton 300. One in a Pulsar, and then Rice and Gardner in this, the Veloster. The front-wheel drive machine has looked nice through the first few corners, and again, as I say, the front-wheel drive car comes into its own about now in this tight, twisty section of the circuit, using the curb at turn number 6, gets it turned in really nicely. It looks really nice through this section of circuit. You were saying to me, that they're improving lap on lap, session on session, and I saw that in qualifying. The improvement between the start of qualifying and the end was really impressive, and I expect that to continue tomorrow. I reckon they could come on strong and could play a factor come the end of the race tomorrow, with 2 experienced fast drivers behind the wheel. They might not have the outright lap speed of some of the cars that we're going to see later on in this top 10 shootout, but with 2 experienced fast drivers in an endurance race, just you wait till lap number 90. And with 10 laps to go, they may be there right in contention for the race victory. We see the Hyundai round the final couple of corners. It's been a nice, neat, tidy lap. No errors, not using all the road on the exit of the final turn, and drives it to the line. What's it going to be? Checkered flag waving. A 1 minute 43.7. Unfortunately, that puts him to the tail of the grid behind the 3 E-Class Pulsars. So at the moment, that is 5th on the leaderboard.
Yeah, a bit of a surprise there, because chatting to the team pre-session, they were anticipating that they might have been able to dip under the 1 minute 40 mark. They did do a 1 minute 40 in qualifying earlier today, so they'll be a little bit disappointed with that result, unfortunately, but of course it's a very long race coming up tomorrow afternoon, so plenty of time to charge their way back through the field. Now, the number 23 entry on field at the moment, so this is the car of Matthew Butters behind the wheel at the moment. He kicks off his flying lap, kicks up a wheel at the back, as well as is customary with the N14 and N15 Pulsars, a familiar trait for the spectacular racing cars. SR20 4-cylinder engine underneath the hood, and Matthew Butters in the Agile Energy entry, the number 23 car, has the back skating around literally along for the ride, as is the case with these cars, with all the weight at the front. So the front tyre is doing all of the work this weekend, and here is a great example of that coming through the sweeper. All the way around to the left, quick dart to the right, and then deep under brakes as late as you are willing to go. But you don't want to compromise the entries. We've seen a few cars do so far in this session. But Matthew Butters looking nice and agile in the Agile Energy backed car. Look at the back of that car. It's literally along for the ride, Dan. So this is a spectacular lap. And he's run a little bit wide there, so he's gone in a little bit too hot, and it's going to cost him crucial time. We've already seen with the Pulsars so far partaking in this session, it's incredibly close between the Nissans, and he's run wide once again. It looks like he just hasn't got the front of that car able to be where he wants to place it. So he turns it in, and he just doesn't have the grip there, unfortunately. So he's had a couple of corners a little bit off line, but we have to wait and see what the stopwatch says when he comes across the start-finish line. Beautifully presented car, red, yellow and white. The Agile Energy supported car of Matthew Butters comes screaming towards the start-finish line, and we'll find out what this flying lap is in just a few moments. And that is a 1 minute 41 flat, so that puts him to position 2. So he's actually the fastest of the Pulsars. So it might have looked a little bit messy, but it actually yielded results for Matthew Butters there in the end. So fantastic effort there to be the fastest of the Pulsars in this session. Obviously, these cars might be running slightly different tyre configurations given the open rule set for the Winton 300, but great effort there from Matthew Butters to be provisionally position 2 at the moment.
I expected the 333 machine to come out after that. They were 4th in the race earlier today, but no, we've now got the 3rd place car, the 791 Mazda MX-5 out there on the racetrack. So a bit of a jump up in performance from the Pulsar to this Mazda MX-5. You can see the cameraman scanning, and you can see the speed difference just from the way the camera's being operated. It's quite a remarkable turn in speed. In qualifying earlier on, it was a 1 minute 34. So that'll be a good 5 seconds faster than anything we've had so far if he can replicate that on this lap. So Boydell is out there on the racetrack at the moment, hurtling around this sequence of corners. This qualified 2nd earlier on today, finished 3rd in the race, couldn't match it with the Evo of Burgess, and finished the race, as I say, in 3rd. I think this car as well could be a real factor in the race tomorrow. That is for certain. Certainly one of the contenders as he rounds turn number 10 using a little bit of curb. It's thrown him a little bit out wide. I think that could have cost him a couple of tenths of a second. As he ploughs down the back straight, something I don't know if the camera's come a little loose or something. I can see something wagging around the tail end of that car. Can you spy what that is, Callum?
Might have been a tow rope. He's got the car very animated coming down the main straight, though, to complete his lap dance. So we'll get an indication of this time just a few moments. Looking like a very tidy lap otherwise. We do anticipate this is going to be one of the quickest laps of the session, and he does indeed. It's a 1 minute 35.37, so the very smart lap from the MX-5, the number 791 entry with Andrew Boydell behind the wheel.
A very good lap, and now it looks like the 333's out. So out in a different order to what I expected. But yeah, the 333 is now out there on the racetrack. And here it is. The Subaru Press finished 4th in the race earlier on today, Callum.
So starting to get his tyres warmed up as well. So that is also a feature that we don't necessarily see when they're coming out of the pits on their siding lap. Oh, and he's locked a brake going into turn 11. It's run wide. Hasn't begun his lap just yet, though, but that is a bit of a heart-stopping moment there. Coming around turn 12 to get his lap underway for real. So we need to take into consideration the brake balance with that wonderful sounding Subaru Impreza WRX STI going into turn 1. No locking brakes that time around, but the tyre will be feeling just a little bit ordinary after that minor mistake on his warm-up lap, but obviously it's not part of his timed single lap of the session, so no harm, no foul at this stage. Keeping it nice and tidy into turn 3, maximising the room on the left-hand side as he comes through turn 4 and nailing the corner exit on the way to turn 5. So this long left-hander, it seems like it never ends, and this all-wheel drive capable, turbocharged, boxer-engined, flat 4. Oh, and he's locked the wheel again, so the brake balance is very unhappy in that session, but it doesn't look like it's cost him too much time. The McGuinness entry, number 333, keeping it nice and tidy through turn 8. This is the McGuinness Car Sales supported entry. Beautifully turned out in that black livery. It's looking very menacing, extremely clean and well turned out, but the front brakes locking up will not be doing any wonders for the driver's confidence, especially when it's all about trying to maximise that single lap pace. Now, we don't have an idea of what the sector times are like as he's pressing on, but it doesn't look like it's been too bad of a lap, so we do suspect it's going to be somewhere around the top 3 area. Just 2 more corners left onto the main straight, and then we've got Burgess coming up very shortly, so it's the perennial old Subaru v Mitsubishi all-wheel drive battle. But here comes McGuinness across the line now, and that's a 1 minute 34.7, so that is provisional pole. Wonderful effort, collecting himself, remaining calm and collected in the chaos of a locking brake, so overcoming that issue and doing a brilliant job in the one lap timed effort there for the McGuinness entry. And on screen right now, we've got the Burgess Evo, Dan. This is one of your favourite cars here this weekend. All-wheel drive grip, and it's, as we've seen in the race earlier today, the qualifying race, its race pace is spectacular, but now we're going to get an indication of its one-lap pace.
I think we grew up with the Subaru Mitsubishi Rally Battle, didn't we?
We did.
Both of us. We grew up in that era that was the late 90s and early noughties. And here we go. Burgess, I believe it's Lee Burgess behind the wheel in this session. As he rounds the final turn to begin his lap. Green flag being waved. So across the line goes the Lancer Evo. And down into turn number 1. This is the best returning combination in this race. They finished 5th last year, just 1 lap down. And they are back to finish better again in this race this weekend. And it's got off to a great start. 3rd in qualifying earlier on. Immediately overtook the the MX-5, I should say, down towards turn number 1. Sat in 2nd after that for the entirety of that 10-lap race. The 30-kilometre sprint that was the qualifying race. And that's given him position number 9 for this top 10 shootout. And he's using it to great effect out there on the racetrack. Looks really nice in this section of turns, cocking up a wheel. Didn't expect to see that in the Evo 9, that's for sure. But it looks really sweet out there. The power down of this car is phenomenal. And you can see it roar down towards turn number 10. Bang, hard on the brakes, squirreling slightly under brakes, but gets it stopped nicely. Turns in, uses the road on the exit. Brilliant stuff. And after this, we'll have just 1 car remaining to decide who will start on pole position for this year's Winton 300. Burgess, though, wants to take provisional pole. He's got a 1 minute 34.75 to beat. That was the Impreza just a few moments ago. Narrowest line to the line and second. Oh, look at that. 1,000th of a second separating the pair. That is phenomenal. So 0.001. Can you believe it? The fight, the battle between Impreza and Evo. As we can see, the Tran machine come around, heading into the final couple of corners. This is the car that won the race in 2022. 2 different drivers behind the wheel, though, this year. Saar and Jimmy Tran this time. Jimmy, it's a case of redemption for him. He was leading the race with just 2 laps to go last year, and his car almost ground to a halt. He limped across the line in a very disappointing second, but he's back for redemption. He has one thing on his mind, and that's victory here in the Winton 300 this year, and he's attacking turns 1 and 2 with real vigour. This is the only B-class car in the race this year. That means this car will have to do an extra 2.5 minutes in pit stop time tomorrow. And that'll be really interesting, really fighting the car on the exit of turn number 4. Swings it into the sweeper, goes for a nice late apex, hits the apex at turn number 6 as well. This has been a really nice, smooth lap so far, but fast as well, and that's of course what you want in the top 10 shootout. Around the left-hander, underneath the gum tree. And you can see his eyes almost. It's a Stig-like helmet, isn't it? The very plain white helmet. And turns it around the right hand, or maybe ran a little bit wide on the exit. That wouldn't have cost him too much time. He's kept the momentum down towards turn number 10. He looks steady under brakes as well, which is really good, particularly when you're going into a really long endurance race. You want a car that's predictable under brakes, shall we say. Over a 300k race distance, that's going to be vitally, vitally important. Here it is then, the 818 machine with Jimmy Tran at the wheel, rounding the final corner, using a bit of curve on the apex, and goes towards the line. What's it going to be? 1:34.7 to beat. It's not quite good enough. Misses out by 1/10 of a second. He goes position number 3. So it's McGuinness in the 333 Impreza that will take pole position by an incredible 1,000th of a second. Callum Brannigan, can you believe how tight that qualifying session was?
I cannot believe that, and it's thrown up so many surprises in that session. Who'd have known having a single time lap could throw up so many surprises, but it's definitely pulled out a massive wooden spoon and stirred the pot that is going to be the starting order. We've predicted so many things this weekend, and not many of that came to fruition during that session, so that was an absolutely outstanding top 10 shootout to decide the starting order for tomorrow's Winton 300 endurance race here at the Winton Motor Raceway. But the margins, slim margins, you literally can't separate them. It's incredible.
Certainly is. 1,000th to Burgess in the Evo, and then 1/10th to Tran. Look at that, 1,000th of a second. Scott McGuinness will start from pole position in the 333 Evo. Jerry Burgess and Lee Burgess out of position number 2. The reigning car winner is not on the screen now. It's registered. It's not setting a lap time. We can assure you that did register. So they will start from position number 3, ahead of Andrew Boydell and Jason Walsh. But look at that. That's 4 cars within 6/10. Then we've got a bit of a gap back to the D-class cars. Flanagan, Butters, Agar, Maynard and Hayes. They were all in the Pulsars. But the big surprise for me in that session was Rice in the Veloster. Position number 10. A second off the Pulsars. I reckon that car had a few gremlin, a few mechanical issues maybe. I'm sure they'll bounce back tomorrow.
Plenty of time tomorrow for them to recover. We're used to seeing them running around in the 1-minute 40s. That was a 1-minute 43 in that session. So you dare say the car just wasn't there for them, unfortunately. But as we said, it's going to be a long, hard race tomorrow. 3 hours for the entire field to sort themselves out. And to finish first you must finish. So
absolutely
looking forward to that. Of course, we've got a warm-up session tomorrow morning for the Winton 300, followed by the main event, which is scheduled to get underway tomorrow. The final event of the day, just before 2:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. The Winton 300, 3 hours in duration, taking place on the long track. Speaking of long tracks and short tracks, you